Welcome back to the GTN Show, and this week with Heather. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, it has. Oh, it's so great to be back. It's been a crazy couple of months, but super privileged to have the chance to be at the Olympics and the Paralympics. But yeah, great to be home and thrown back in the deep end.
Well, talking of which, you really were catapulted and thrown back in this weekend with an almighty triathlon, which we'll go into very shortly. But also on this week's show, we're going to be discussing alcohol and exercise and new 5K and 10K world records.
Yeah, on top of that, we've also got a new Pro-Am series we're going to be talking about, as well as a new initiative that's helping sort of people who haven't tried triathlon get stuck in. All right, well, we've been pretty busy this weekend, but we have had a chance to spot a few things on social media, and I follow Flora Duffy. I mean, most triathlon fans do, don't they? So you guys might have noticed that she has now had a national holiday in Bermuda because of her, as a result of her gold medal, which is pretty epic, isn't it?
It doesn't get much better than that,
You've made it if you've got a national holiday. So I think the 18th of October is now named Flora Duffy Day. I don't know if it's going to be forever or just this year.
You'd like to think people would buy her a few drinks on Flora Duffy Day in Bermuda, wouldn't you?
That is pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, she's been basking in the glory, why not? She's also specialised, have come up with a lovely custom bike to celebrate her win as well. And I think you can, maybe you can't buy that exact one, but you can get something similar for around $14,000. So,
well, actually, James, our co-presenter, did a lot of his or her training with her in the lead up to the Olympic Games, so maybe he should have a public holiday. We should maybe give him a day off that day as well.
Oh, maybe. Or you can buy us drinks.
Yeah, we'll go for that, yeah. Also, this weekend at the Tour of Britain Stage 7, Pascal Enkhorn won the hearts of the viewers as we saw a young kid riding alongside the breakaway. I've got to say, I did think it was Dan Lloyd's son, Jude, at one point, but this young kid keeping up with the breakaway, and Pascal Enkhorn reached out and handed him his bottle. It was a fabulous moment. It looked really, really good. And then also the Super League Triathlon, which we'll talk through in more detail in a moment. We had some excitement in the final leg of the men's race with Johnny Brownlee and Vincent Louis coming in neck and neck. But Vincent Louis had the short shoot, or bonus short shoot, that he'd earned earlier on in the race, but held out his hand in a respect, a little high five for Johnny Brownlee to say, you know, thanks, great race, brilliant work, great sportsmanship, and then took that short shoot.
But now I'm going to win.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, brilliant racing from both of them, and yeah, love that.
Yeah, it's just nice, isn't it?
Now, before we carry on with the show, I think we need to discuss this weekend for GTN because it was pretty big. We had a lot going on. So firstly, Alex, our cameraman, in case you haven't been following, he took part in his first triathlon this weekend, and he's literally progressed from pretty much zero endurance background over the last couple of months up to doing his first triathlon. So stay tuned for that. We'll explain more on that soon. Also, Heather, you took part in another race at the Blenheim Triathlon. Do you want to explain it?
Well, a few races, yeah. I mean, alongside Alex, sadly I didn't actually get to do the same start as him, but yeah, I was doing something called the Weekend Warrior, which was just as many triathlons as I could do with little training. But like we say, there will be more coming out on that. I am still alive today. We're filming this on Monday and I'm feeling slightly hungover without the alcohol. So yeah, but other than that, I'm alive. Yeah. I'm kicking.
Legs feeling okay?
Weirdly better today than they did after day one. So so whether the second day was like the flush out, and now I feel like I'm vaguely a triathlete again after, you know, I've almost doubled my total triathlons in 1 week.
You got fitter through the weekend.
Yeah. But what about you?
Well, yeah, this weekend, Sam, James and myself took part in the Brighton Marathon. We set a rather lofty goal of sub 2 hours 30, which I think we all admitted quite openly going into it. I'm not sure we're quite on for sub 2:30, but we gave it our best crack. Sam got very close, well, at least he went sub 2:40. James, sub 3 hours. I won't say too much more. Myself didn't go so well, but you're just going to again wait for the video to find out what went on there. And then also finally, Ollie, who also works behind the scenes on GTN, took part in a half Ironman, very local to here, and put in a very respectable 5 hours 17. So well done to him. But also, he did it on the second-hand cheap bike that I upgraded.
We're recycling here at GTN. I love it.
I know, yeah. I'm just glad it made it through, and he didn't have any mechanicals.
Yeah, it would have been on you. I mean, it has been an awesome weekend of like the whole of the GTN team at events this weekend, and I know that I'm just buzzing from being at a triathlon and being at a race and just seeing so many people loving it, but also so many people, especially at Blenheim, doing their very first triathlon. And all sorts of bikes. I mean, even what that bike before, things way more lower level than what you had before you did that upgrade. And that for me is like just something that really kind of reminds me of why we do this. And we actually had a great chat with a girl called Em Clarkson, who's set up this initiative, I guess, called HaveAGoes. And it is just, epitomising that, of getting people who've never done a triathlon and who aren't sporty to come along and have a go. And yeah, we caught up with her there on the weekend.
The HaveAGoes is the HaveAGoes. And the point of it is to remove intimidation from sporting events. So very often the thing that stops particularly women showing up to events like this isn't that they're not fit enough or that they're not competent enough, it's that they're not confident enough, and they're not confident enough because it's so scary. So the point of this is that we create a community that removes the fear factor and enables you to be part of something supportive and inclusive and special. This was the birthplace of the HaveAGoes, so I have done Blenheim Triathlon on my own 5 times maybe, and I did it, that's adorable. I did it last year for the first time with my sister and with my friend. They were beginners, and it made me actually see the event slightly differently and see it from a beginner's perspective. And it is really fun, but it's also really scary, and there's a lot to not know. And I emailed the event organisers afterwards, and I said, I loved it, but do you do anything to help beginners? And she said, well, no, not really, but if you wanted to do something, we would support you, which was amazing. So we started the HaveAGoes, and it was an online community, obviously, because of the lockdown. And then we did the A6 10K in London, and there were 500 of us for that. And then the Blenheim Triathlon very generously gave us 50 places in each wave today. So we've had 1 sprint team and 1 super sprint team.
So why is triathlon so daunting for beginners, and what barriers does it pose?
I think there's a lot. A cost is a huge thing, obviously. Even getting to a place like this is expensive. You've got your bikes, you've got your kit, you've got whatever. Woo! Sorry, that's going to be so loud. You've got so many cost implications for a start, which does make it very exclusive. But then the other thing is simply there is so much to know. And I think my mum does Ironman, she's done 9 Ironman, so I've been surrounded by it and very used to it. So I know about tri-belts and cycling shorts and cleats and that sort of thing. But if you don't know, people don't know if they can show up on their road bike. People don't know what a tri-suit is. Do you wear a sports bra? Do you wear pants? No one tells you. What do you wear? How do you put your wetsuit on? When did you put it on? No one knows. No one tells you. And it's not a massive here's getting into triathlon, because everyone that's kind of in it is already kind of in it. So yeah, that's kind of what I feel like what we want to do is just kind of knock it down a bit and let people feel a bit more included.
Okay, on to Tri News now, and a bit of a question. Do you like exercise, and do you enjoy a tipple? Well, it can seem that the two are counterintuitive, because we're told that exercise is typically good for us and alcohol less so. So this is why this article caught my eye. It was titled, Fit and Tipsy, the interrelationship between cardiorespiratory fitness and alcohol consumption and dependence. And this has been a pretty large study when I looked into it. I thought it might be just one of those sort of token things, but it's actually 38,500 people took part in this study. And it was part of a place where they were going for preventative medical exams. And the Cooper Centre basically enrolled them into this longitudinal study, and they've got some interesting stats from it.
Yeah, so the subject's cardio fitness, or VO2 max, was estimated from a treadmill test to exhaustion. And then with those results, they split the participants off into 5 equally sized groups ranging from low fitness up to high fitness. And then they took a look at alcohol consumption. And again, this ranged from light, moderate through to heavy drinkers. So light was considered as 3 drinks or fewer per week, moderate for women, 7 drinks or up to 7 drinks, men up to 14 drinks per week, and then heavy was considered anything above that. And the big takeaway result from this was that moderately or highly fit people were more likely to be moderate or heavy drinkers. So the results actually for the women being highly fit more than doubled the odds of being a moderate or heavy drinker. For the men, it increased the odds by 63%.
Really quite, I was surprised at it, but then it makes me start thinking about some of my friend groups and, maybe not to the sort of extreme levels, but the way the relationship of exercise and alcohol comes to play. And there's kind of 2 different ways, I guess, of 2 different brackets which you could fit in. And this is what the researchers kind of placed it as: either you're someone who says, the work hard, play hard, so you do the run and you do lots of running, so then you kind of drink lots because that's sort of your mentality, or you're celebrating the exercise, which I know I definitely come into that category. But then on the other side, there's the people who will run because they drink, so that makes them, get rid of the guilt, or it's body image, so you want to kind of make sure that you're not putting on too much weight from the drinking you're doing. And yeah, I think it's quite fascinating to see, like, do you think you would fit into either of those categories?
I don't know where I fit in this. I just kind of drink without really thinking about it, without that sounding bad. I just I just enjoy having a drink in the evening. And I wouldn't say I go out for a run thinking, oh, well, I've now earned a drink. I think I just like the refreshing taste of an alcohol.
I think that's better, rather than thinking that, you're doing it because you want to earn it.
But I definitely, you bring up the kind of the social circles, and yes, I will go out for a run with a group of friends, and that means we will then meet up together and we'll possibly have a drink. So I've never thought about it like that. Actually, It ends up, because of sport and triathlon, you end up very sociable.
Yeah.
And with that, potentially have the options for having drinks.
I wonder if it's more with the running community than triathlon community, because triathletes, if you are being relatively, well, not even serious, but if you're, say, training for an Ironman, you've got to fit in so much training that you're probably going to have to do some early morning training, and then having more than one drink the night before is just, even if it's not really affecting you, it's just going to make it harder to get up. So maybe it's less of a thing in triathlon.
Well, to be honest, I think we need to throw this out to you guys out there. I mean, obviously, we're not saying we condone drinking or anything, but we're super interested to hear what you guys do as triathletes. So let us know in the comment section down below. How often do you drink? Do you consider yourself a light, moderate, or heavy drinker?
I'm not going to answer this, put myself in that category. But I must admit, having a lot of time to think over the weekend, doing a lot of triathlons, I was definitely desperate for a glass of wine when I finished on Saturday, and then realising I had to do it all over again the next day. And I was like, oh, do I want that glass of wine? And I had just one small glass, and I felt so hungover the next day. But I don't think it was from the glass of wine. I think it was from just the dehydration of the exercise. At least that's what I'm telling myself. We've got some good news now that's actually coming across from football, which I think a lot of sports could maybe listen to. So Tottenham have teamed up with Sky ahead of this weekend's football match against Chelsea, and they are making the match the first net zero carbon game. So they're trying to reduce emissions through travel and people arriving, and also running the actual event itself. Plus they're having less carbon emission food options, so I presume sort of less meat and things like that available. And then anything that they haven't managed to sort of get to bring down to zero, they're going to offset by other initiatives, so planting things, I imagine. And they're calling it #Game Zero, and it's going to be the first one in football in the world, which I think is really cool. They've got such a huge captive audience, Sky and football generally, and Tottenham and Chelsea, such a massive game, that they're really sort of showing and raising awareness and leading the way. So hopefully, other sports can learn from it. And I know, triathlon's got a long way to go, so we can maybe watch and learn a little bit as well.
Yes, hope so. Also this weekend, 2 women's road running world records fell at a very impressive display at the Adizero Road to Records event in Germany. Agnes Tirrup slashed 28 seconds from the 19-year-old women-only 10K world record, clocking a time of 30 minutes and 1 second. Agonisingly close to that sub-30. And then Senbert Teferi produced an outright world record for the 5K with a time of 14:29.
Oh, fast running, yeah, crazy. Some news from the PTO. They have just teamed up with Herbalife. You might recognise them as a nutrition company based out in the States, and they are going to be introducing a Pro-Am series for the Herbalife LA Triathlon in next May. And there's a $100,000 prize purse, so that's going to attract hopefully some big names. But they're also planning on having a celebrity team relay when you've got pro athletes mixed in with age group athletes. And I love that kind of concept of just getting everyone involved and together. And LA is a perfect setting for something like that.
Yeah, imagine being on a relay team with Jan Frodeno or Holly Lawrence. Yeah, how cool is that?
Would be very cool. I wonder if we could get a ticket in for that one.
Yeah.
You never know.
Now for What the Tech.
What the what?
What the Tech. The tech news, but what the tech.
Okay, I like it.
Good.
Cool.
Pleased you're on board. Good stuff. So first off, Jabir Mize. A brand you may not have heard of, but actually has been around for some time now and been providing products for some of the top pros out there, kind of secretively. So what they primarily have been experts in at the moment is doing customized saddles. So athletes will come in and do pressure mapping and get custom saddles with the density of the foam being changed in certain areas depending on where they're applying pressure on the saddle, also the shape to some degree on some saddles. Well, they have expanded their kind of horizons in their market a little bit. They've now gone into moldable insoles for the cycling shoes. And something I think a lot of people would be quite interested in is the elbow cups and TT bar mounts. So also, again, the density of the foam where you're applying pressure.
So basically every body point.
Exactly, all those contact points, essentially making you as comfortable as possible. So I think a lot of us are so focused on being aerodynamic and how, you know, our CDA and our body position, but actually one of the really important points is how comfortable we are. So really interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more from this brand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would buy into that. I certainly would. I'm definitely more on the comfort side, as you know. But anyway, especially after doing how many triathlons over this weekend. We've got some news from Vision. They've just updated their Vision Metron 45 and 60mm SL wheels. And it looks as though they're going along the sort of the trend of making the rim width wider to suit the wider tyres. So they've now got a 21mm internal rim width. There's also a little bit here of basically they're trying to make, you know, as all manufacturers, a stiffer, lighter wheel, which, you know, is kind of optimum. But they've got some space-derived foam to put between the carbon layers. So I don't know where they got that from. You know, they popped up to space and got this foam that's making these wheels extra fast. Also some aero-bladed double-butted spokes. I had to read that bit.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. You're the tech expert. Who knows?
No, sounds very good. And then next up, something I spotted DC Rainmaker doing, actually. Now, in case you don't know who DC Rainmaker is, well, where have you been? This guy's absolutely fantastic. He has his own website and just reviews products.
He is a tech geek that I can imagine sort of
He's next level. He is next level, an absolute expert in it. So I really thought this was interesting. He basically said, poking at this Gatorade patch thingy, basically slap it on, go out for a run, and it will track your sweat loss, not just the amount of sweat that you're producing, but the sodium content in that, which is, as a lot of people probably already know, is the most important part. And what it does is it kind of fills up and creates this barcode of sorts, and then you scan that with the Gatorade app, and then it gives you the results. He has quite honestly said it's a little bit clunky. It's not a fantastic app, but I thought this is really interesting. Obviously, I think we've both used Precision Hydration, where they do a similar thing in-house, but this is quite cool that you can go out and actually run and sort of try it in the real world. So
it might be interesting to try at different times of year, so you can sort of plan your nutrition strategy depending on how hot it is or something.
I sort of think that would end up completely full up for me.
Yeah, then you just have to stop. Once it's full, you're like, oh, that's the end of my run. Walk home
I'd
now.
have multiple.
Yeah.
Well, now for the race news, and this weekend we had Challenge Almere that also hosted the World Triathlon Long Distance Champs over the standard 3.8 kilometre swim, 180 kilometre bike and 42.2 kilometre run. Now, we had superb racing all round, but there was a serious battle for the victory in the men's race between Christian Hogenhaug and Jesper Svensson. It actually came down to pretty much the penultimate lap of the run, where Christian Hogenhaug broke away from Jesper Svensson to go on to take that win after them pretty much doing the entire marathon together, neck and neck, side by side. Christian Hogenhaug posted a time of 7 hours and 37 minutes. Jesper Svensson came in second, and then Ronaldo Colucci took third.
Well, it's great when you have exciting racing like that, don't you? Well, the women's race had points of being pretty exciting. Sarissa de Vries had a strong lead out of the swim, 53 minutes, I think it was, 53.32. 2.5 minutes ahead of Michelle Vesterby, who had an incredible bike ride. She actually broke the bike course record, and she went on to get an overall personal best and Danish record for the overall triathlon. However, she did fade towards the end, and she just said, well, the other girls were stronger on the day. It was Sarissa de Vries who still had that lead at T2, but then started to struggle with stomach issues. I know how she feels. And apparently even had to walk at some point in the marathon, but she hung on and took the lead. And it was a really strong run by Manon Genet, who came through to finish second. Michelle Vesterby was third.
Oh, great racing. This weekend we also had the Super League Triathlon, where they hopped over to Munich for this weekend as they continue their month of back-to-back racing every single weekend through September. Now, the format changes for each weekend. This weekend they had what's called the equaliser format. So for stage one, they did a non-drafting 2.5 4-kilometre bike time trial, and then stage 2, a non-stop swim, bike, run with a pursuit start based on their stage 1 times. The course was also really impressive. It was right next to the Olympic Stadium. It had technical parts, cobbles, punchy climbs. It had everything. It also had a very interesting descent down to the swim start, down this sort of grassy slope, but there's almost this graduating steps that looked like it was going to buckle your knees as you were chipping it down there. In the women's race starting off with, it was Emily Morier that posted the fastest time on the bike. That then meant that she started first on stage 2, but they were all so close to each other. So they were literally running into the water, almost diving on top of one another. And from there on, it was Jess Learmonth that just took over. Also, having that fastest swim, she gained that short shoot advantage and just took the win relatively comfortably. Georgia Taylor-Brown took second and Beth Potter third. In the overall standings on, I guess, match 2 or leg 2 of this month of racing, it is Jess Learmonth, Georgia Taylor-Brown, and then Katie Safaris in third with Beth Potter in fourth.
I was going to say, it sounds like Britain are dominating, but Safaris has obviously just been off the podium, but consistent. Whether she's waiting for it to be in Malibu and she's going to come through and take the win, then who knows?
Yeah, home.
Well, on the men's side, it was Seth Ryder who had the quickest bike time. It was all fairly close, but he was 11 seconds ahead of probably the favourites, Johnny Brownie and Vincent Louis. But it was a battle between those two, as we've alluded to at the top of the show, when it came down to that high five and Vincent Louis disappearing down the short chute to take the win over Johnny Brownlee. And then Alex Yee, with a consistent performance, was in third. And that puts the overall standings, unsurprisingly, with Vincent Louis at the top and Johnny Brownlee in second. And then it's Hayden Wild, who's sitting in third at the moment. Alex Yee just off in fourth.
There's going to be a lot of chopping and changing, I predict, coming forward. We also had Ironman 70.3 Nice this weekend. Also Ironman France on the same weekend, but that was just an age group race only. Also, interestingly, previous 70.3 World course. I also saw that they started in very dark conditions.
I saw Nicholas Briggs post about that.
Yeah, and I have heard from a couple of athletes, it was quite tricky to see the swim boys at points.
Scary as
so
well.
a few of them suggested they might have swum a bit further than they should have. Interesting results though on the men's side, particularly because the winner was Kasper Stornes from Norway.
Yeah, he came back.
And very impressive, a good 7 minutes clear of anyone else in just over 4 hours. Dylan McNean taking second, and then Adam Bowden in third. On the women's side, we had Nicola Spirig posting also a very impressive time, 4 hours 36, ahead of Lena Berlinger and then India Lee in third.
Well, there was also Ironman 70.3 Sunshine Coast down in Australia, and the men's race was won by Nicholas Free ahead of Josh Amberger, pretty close at the top end there. Third was Caleb Noble. The women's was won by Lotta Wilms ahead of Kiralee Seedell, and Hannah Wells was third.
Yeah, and then we also had Challenge Hurling. We've got a lot of racing this weekend. That was won by Lisa Gers, and then on the men's side, Bendix Madsen ahead of Boris Stein. So very impressive there. And then also we had Xterra Netherlands. Men's side, that was won by Jorik van Egdom, and on the women's side, Didi Diedericks.
Alrighty, time to take a look at your photos, and it seems like everyone has been racing this weekend because we've got another picture here sent in by Roland, and it's of his custom bike, a Kelly's 4.9 frame. But the most exciting part is he took part in a triathlon in Potsdam, Austria, and he said it's the first time he's done a long distance triathlon and finished in the daylight, which I like the way of measuring your kind of progress. I mean, when I first read this, I was like, well, you know, maybe you could find a long distance triathlon in the summer in Iceland and then you've probably got your full 17 hours, but that obviously isn't the point. I get that, Roland, and you did it in a 12 hours 01:46. Great stuff.
Work. And I've heard of that event, the Podersdorf. It's I believe it's going to be a really cool event, so great work. Next one from Gregors from Sorumsand in Norway, and they said, take it easy at the end of my training season. I don't know if they mean session or season. Finally have some time to stop to take some pictures and admire the scenery, and a very nice scenery indeed.
The golden hour that is, isn't it? Yeah, and then we have this one from Alison. This is just a cool picture. It's the Live Avow Advanced Pro 0 and Pro 1. So we've got a pair here. She says it's along the Island Highway on southern Vancouver Island in Canada, somewhere that's definitely on my bucket list. Had 2 days off, able to take the ferry across the island to see my friend who has a sister bike, and they ride along the coastal highway for a long ride, enjoying the views. And yeah, just saying these bikes can fly. When the weather's good, riding on a TT bike when you've got no pressure, it's just a pretty cool feeling, isn't it? So,
yeah,
lovely picture.
Great photos. As always, please do keep sending them in, particularly with all the racing that's happening at the moment, what you're up to, and even in your training or your pain cave setup. So use the photo upload link that's on screen right now, or you can find that in the description down below.
All right, on to Caption Competition, and we had this picture from Super League last week. And first up, we have... Hang on. You're just doing right. We're getting ready for the next caption. But this first one was a satin cat. Some train with fins in the pool. We race with them. I quite like that. It was clever.
The next one from Amber Kennedy. You ready, Heather?
I'm as ready as you are, Mark.
Baby shark, do 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 do. Parent shark, do 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 do. Grandparent shark, do 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 do.
Right, okay. Next, you've also got the triathlon shark do from Gabba Le Hockey. But before all this, literally a few minutes ago, Mark didn't even know that song. Can you believe that?
Well, I'd heard of it.
Now you're not going to get it out of your head.
Understand the context, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you guys haven't won, but you have got that song stuck in your head, so thank you, not for that. Next, we have Barrick presenting the first boy band of triathlon, Swim, Bike, Run Direction.
Nice. Very good. But the winner is Marcelo G. Said, mate, I told you we are sharks and you showed up dressed as an orca. Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, fabulous stuff. Get in touch, we'll send a cap out to you. But for this week's Caption Comp photo, it's of Vicky Holland pulling a rather funny face.
Yeah, I hope she maybe doesn't see this, or she likes us enough to laugh at the funny side, because there's far worse pictures of me out there. But yeah, it looks like she's having a good time, doesn't it?
Yeah, do get involved. Leave your captions in the comments section down below. But that is it for the show this week. We have loads coming up on the channel, including my sub 2:30 marathon attempt. I think we need to change that. Anyway, also the Zero to Hero series with Alex, our cameraman, who is currently behind the camera, right straight off the back of attempting to do his triathlon. So stay tuned to see how that went.
And remember, if you haven't yet done so, do make sure you subscribe, hit the globe and give us a like. And you might have noticed this t-shirt is a little bit different to the one that Mark and James wear. We've got some new stuff in the shop, and this is a women's fit tee. So if you are a woman, or you know any women who love a bit of GTN, then go check that out. Obviously, we've got jumpers and things as well there. So make sure to check that one out. We've also got a couple of videos to leave you with if you want to get excited ahead of the 70.3 World Champs, which I certainly am. We've got a great preview that's on screen now, as well as some behind the scenes inside data to Lionel Sanders.